Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm going to have a little chat with you about potentially a very cold winter that we've got coming, and some measures you can take to basically protect your trees through this harsh winter. Obviously not everyone's got the luxury of having a greenhouse, but there are a few little things that we can do to try and keep our trees protected. So we're going to have a little look. So over the last couple of days, in which technically should be autumn, we've had some early frost and signs of winter. So I'm sure all of us are quite worried about protecting our trees from one end of the country to the other. And I know some of you have been expecting snow, so definitely want to be protecting your trees really. I've pulled all of my trees off the benches and I've put them in protection in the greenhouse. I know the temperatures are due to go back up during the week, but we'll just gauge and see what happens. I might end up putting them back out on the benches, some of them, but at the minute they're going to stay put, I think. Ideally, I wanted them away without leaves and ready to go through winter, but at the minute I'm just making sure that my trees are safe. Right, if you haven't got the luxury of having a greenhouse, like I'm very fortunate to have, you may, one or two of you at least, have benches that you keep your trees on. So the main thing is, I think, that you could do to start with, if you want to, like my friend Terry does, is so he'll either take the top bench off and put it underneath, or now he's got a spare actually that goes right underneath. And then what he does is he drapes a tarp over the top of it, and then underneath there he can store all of his trees over winter. I think his conifers, they tend to stay out, and he brings them in and puts them in his shed overnight. And just gauges it really. But that's one way that we could sort of make a kind of a makeshift greenhouse, kind of polytunnel if you like. I don't personally actually own a shed, but this is a barbecue shack which I built a couple of years back, and perfectly adequate to store trees in. I've got a little rose in there at the minute because I just haven't got any room in the greenhouse. But yeah, if you've got a shed or any type of shelter like this, it's perfect. Really, ideally, all we're doing is trying to keep the kind of the wind off of the trees, get them low to the ground, and just try and keep that frost off. Something like this is probably ideal for like a conifer or a pine, something that still needs light through winter. Obviously, with our deciduous trees, we kind of don't have to worry about photosynthesis so much. But if you've got pines and conifers, then that's something we need to worry about because they're continuously growing through the winter. So something like this is ideal, or my greenhouse obviously is a perfect option. So this is my garage or studio / workshop, and anybody that owns a garage could potentially put their deciduous trees in the garage over winter. My only suggestion with that is you need to make sure that you're checking quite regularly on whether the pots need watering. So, you know, you could make some sort of makeshift bench if you wanted to put them on up off the floor. I would probably suggest something like that. But you know, there's no harm in putting them out on the floor, to be honest with you, in the garage. But I personally would want them up off the floor if it was me. But yeah, it's definitely an option if you have a garage. Obviously, thinking about all these options, you still would need to be making sure that your trees are in good health quite regularly. There's no point in just putting them away and forgetting about them. You need to be checking just in case. You know, if you've got them all in a tight space, potentially you could be getting, you know, moulds and different funguses growing, all sorts of stuff that you need to look out for. So just make sure that you're going in and you're checking your trees regularly. Thinking back to me working in the garden centre, there are other ways that you can protect trees potentially if you haven't got room to be storing them away. And you can buy a special type of fleece that you can basically wrap the trees and the pots in overnight. Be a bit of a fiddle because you're going to have to do that, you know, at night time, wrap them up and then take the fleece off again the next morning. They do tend to hold moisture quite a bit as well. So what's my plan moving into winter now? I'm going to just gauge and see how this autumn ends up. I need all the leaves off of everything that I need to wire. So my larches, I'm just waiting for the rest of the needles to drop before I start to think about wiring. I've got that short window where I can get the wire on, and then through that couple of months then the branches should solidify and then hopefully they'll stay in place come spring. And then my kind of outlook on that is, after that, then we don't really need to have much wire on until again the following autumn. Potentially that could change, you know, I mean, larches do tend to spring back, but that's my plan looking at it moving forward. I've also got a trident maple that I tried to do a thread graft on and it failed. So what I'm going to do is, once the leaves are off of that, I'm going to reset the branch, which I've now pulled round in place, so that I can just go in, put the hole back in the trunk, and then feed that branch back through, and then leave it over winter and let it go right through the growing season. So if your trees are staying out in the garden, like I suggested, maybe under your bench, I probably wouldn't be doing big procedures. I would leave that until spring before doing something like that. Because I've got the greenhouse, I'm quite privileged in the fact that I can get away a little bit more with doing procedures where I'm opening up the trunk maybe, and I know that they're protected from the elements. Also, I'm controlling the moisture 100% while it's in there. You know, I did at the beginning when I first started bonsai, it was very hard to try and control moisture. I had a pop-up greenhouse and it was a nightmare. It was continuously being blown over, and you know, I lost a few trees because they were just sat in puddles of water and stuff without me knowing. So yeah, having the greenhouse for me was definitely a bit of a game changer, and I would seriously say to people, it's a positive thing to do. You know, if you can afford to do it and you've got the space, maybe do something like that. Obviously, just before you put in your trees away is a perfect time to be doing your winter washes and stuff. I personally never have done, but if that's something that you do religiously, then ideally you're going to be doing that before you do put your trees away. I think what I am going to have to do before my trees do go away for winter completely is I'm going to have to rejig everything in there, because they're quite cramped in there at the minute. I might find myself moving stuff into my shack just to gain a bit of room into the greenhouse so that they're not all stacked on top of each other. But, you know, it's something I'm going to have to play around with. Potentially you could bring out another video maybe. If I could give anyone any advice about this winter, I would say, you know, seriously rethink if you think that you can leave your trees out through the winters that we've been having. Lots of people losing trees over the last couple of years because of the harsh winters and frosts. So I would seriously be looking at 1 or 2 ways to try and put my trees away for winter, and at least you know come spring that you've still got your lovely collection with you. So thanks for watching that little video. If you liked it, if you could just hit the like button, that'd be amazing. If you haven't subscribed already, if you could subscribe, that'd be awesome. Thanks to everyone that already follows and supports me. You're all amazing. And I'll see you again next week. Take care.